Time for another edition of the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast with you as always, Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, NFL.com, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, columnist there at the Kansas City Star. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB. Chiefs get a win back to 500 again. This is the second time they've gotten back to 500. Was this win more about the Chiefs, what they did, or what the Lions couldn't do in this game? Andy Reid, 2 for 3 on fourth down. Is he catching up to the analytics community with his use of fourth downs? Did we just see the ceiling for this defense? Chris Jones and the group held the Lions to 17 points. Is that as good as they can get? Mahomes spreading the ball around to different receivers. Jaylon Moore making a strong case for his value. What did you make of the post-game scuffle between Brian Branch and JuJu Smith-Schuster? And, of course, Patrick Mahomes now moving to the top of the MVP favorites. The Chiefs also moving up as far as the championship odds. We're talking about it here, now, Red, Gold, and Bold.
You are listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro. Jeff Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Sam McDowell is a columnist for the Kansas City Star. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the Best Chiefs podcast, Jeff Chadiha, Sam McDowell, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. Off and running. Chiefs back at 500. They get a victory over the Detroit Lions, a victory that many people didn't think they could get. Sam, let's start with you. Did you think this was more about what the Chiefs did or more about what the Lions didn't do?
Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of both, but, you know, the phrasing was more. And I still think it's more about what the Chiefs did because they're on a 3-game run that we haven't seen them in 3 years now. I mean, this offense has not put up 95 points in a 3-game stretch in 3 years. They were about to be back-to-back games with at least 6 yards per play until those last 3 kneel downs for the first time in over 2 years. The quarterback hasn't thrown 8 touchdowns in a 3-game stretch since 2022. He hasn't had 845 yards in a 3-game stretch in over 2 years. Like, This to me has gotten to the point of the Lions are missing guys, the Ravens are missing guys. I don't think Jacksonville's the top 3 defense that they're the numbers that suggested, but we just hadn't seen the Chiefs do this against anybody over a 3-game stretch for years now, and so that's why I have to lean at being more about what the Chiefs are doing right now.
I think that's a great point. You did mention, and Walker out for the Jaguars. I do think the Jaguars are maybe a little bit overrated coming into that game, but the Chiefs did get it done. You can only beat the teams that are on the field in front of you, Jeff. Injuries are a part of the game. I don't think anybody was crying when they beat the Chiefs without Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice, and their starting left tackle was down. It is part of it, but it's a factor. It needs to be noted. Overall, though, more about what the Chiefs did in this game, or more about what the Lions didn't do?
It was the Chiefs. I mean, I actually don't think the Lions' injuries were that big of an issue for them. I thought they actually played well defensively for what they were putting out there. But I think it's, I know everybody gets caught up in the Chiefs' offense and what they're doing and think that's the key. I've, the last 3 years, felt the key to them is just, are they able to make the plays they have to make when they need to make them, whoever's making them. And so you look at a week ago, and it was 13 penalties. It was a bad Butker kickoff. It was a pick 6. This week, it was no penalties, and they're making all the plays that they have to make. And, it's put this way, the Lions had 3 penalties that were huge in this game. The illegal motion that waved off a touchdown, the pass interference towards the end of the first half, and the Aiden Hutchinson penalty that was about to be 3rd and 7 when they were down 2017 and extended the Chiefs' drive. The Chiefs didn't make those kind of penalties. So to me, that's more important than what the offensive stats say. It's that they were the sharper, more focused team when it mattered most, and that's what decided the game.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think the Chiefs went out, had a great game plan, weathered the storm a little bit. It wasn't like everything was perfect. I mean, the Lions took 10 minutes, and I think you could see a lot of people. I know the folks I was watching with, there was a lot of tight sphincters about, are they ever going to get them off the field? I mean, is this going to be like this all day? Is Pat only going to have like 5 minutes of actual time of possession? I mean, there was real concern with the way the Lions went down the field the first time and the way they took it up. And so I think for the Chiefs to adjust and to eventually gain control. The other thing is, I think to your point, Jeff, about I thought the Lions did a really good job. With a minute to go in the first half, the Lions led 10-6. It ends up being 30-17 and a 13-point win, but they were up 4.
And Amon-RaSt.Brown dropping a 4th down pass that would have sent to the drive, right?
which is clearly the Lions. That's a mistake that they made. That certainly would have helped them. Nobody plays. Nobody catches every ball. Every quarterback's not 37 for 37. Every receiver doesn't catch every target. There's all an element of that. But that was definitely a big play that wasn't made. The flip side was 4th down inside the 10. Chiefs go for it on 4th and 3. Sam, you put the numbers up there. They hadn't done that at all in the Patrick Mahomes era, and not only did they get it, they converted it into a touchdown. I mean, that's the difference. Amon-RaSt.Brown didn't come up with the big catch. The Chiefs came up with the right play and executed it.
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are converting 4th downs at an unsustainable level. Like they're 11 out of 13. That is not going to be the case, that percentage all year. But you hope that the decisions can be, because I think there's been so much focus on their conversions that we can't skip over why they're converting. First, they have to decide to go for it. And Andy Reid has said that he's always been aggressive. He's literally never gone for a 4th down like he went for that initial 4th down that you mentioned. I mean, you mentioned that I think maybe I said on your radio show, but 4th down, at least 3 yards to go. I only look at the first half because the second half you're trailing, you're going for a lot of 4th downs. So first half, 4th and 3+ yards to go inside your own 30. Andy Reid's faced that decision 86 times. 86 times he's trotted out his field goal unit. He has never gone for that 4th down. He's also never gone for 3 4th downs in the first half until Sunday night. Only 6 times has he gone for 4th down twice in the first half. 3 of them are this year. So whatever he wants to say about, hey, I've always been aggressive, he's definitely turned up the dial a little bit. And like I said, I think it's really benefited the Chiefs, the fact that they're converting, because maybe he'll stick with it. But these are the percentage plays to stick with, regardless of this is a process to me, not a result, because the play increased their win chances by 10 to 12% after they converted, depending on which model you favor. But just deciding to go for it increased their percentages by 4 percentage points, according to a couple of models. So I hope this sticks around for Andy Reid. It was really bizarre after the game to write a column about praising his 4th down decisions, because I don't think I've ever done that.
Yeah, I posted the comment about Terry saying Bucker issues may influence the 4th down calls, and
sure. Now that was a 25-yarder, but sure, I do agree with that in theory.
Yeah, I mean, I think we won't know whether they influence him until he's making them all, and they still keep going for him. Right? I think that'll be the difference. You mentioned what Andy Reid said. Couple things I want to point out about it. And let's say this. Him going for it on the 4th down, converting it, is about what the Chiefs did. To go back to the first question and answer it, what the Chiefs did. Andy Reid kept his offense on the field. He went for 7 instead of potentially a missed field goal, or at least he got 6. It was 3 more points than he would have gotten had he taken the field goal and had they made it. And I don't know why when he misses the extra point, you would think that he made the field goal, right? So I think it definitely influenced him, but that's smart management, right? Okay, yeah, that was probably one of the factors, but that means he took all the factors and made an educated decision. Yeah. I almost think the missed extra point makes it even more of an intelligent decision on his part, because it shows you that the kicker was not effective there. So that's Andy Reid taking all the information and coming up with the right conclusion, right, Jeff? I mean,
there's also an awareness of again, you're playing a team that is short a lot of defensive backs, so you probably like your calls better. He's not
Yep.
going to run it down there very much, right? So he's throwing it. You probably feel better about that option. And he's also just watched the first quarter, like you said, where okay, they went on a 10-minute drive. How many times are they going to get the ball back if they get in the lead? I got to think about that as well. So I think when he had opportunities to get touchdowns, his mindset was, I'm going to get touchdowns. And I do think that probably should change. I don't think it should be a universal every fourth down you get into, you need to be going for it. Because on the flip side of it, Dan Campbell being very aggressive in nature, there are some points where it probably cost him in that game. And you could feel the Lions need to score points in that game in ways that you haven't sensed that before. They were very determined. When you're throwing a trick play out the first drive after you've gone 10 minutes with the ball to throw it to your quarterback, that means you really want to score some points bad. And so I think sometimes that can infect your team and make you feel like you're pressing. Like Amon-RaSt.Brown, that fourth down play. Like you have to have these plays instead of just playing more naturally.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, Jeff brings up a good point about the not getting it and the effect of that. This is a little bit reminiscent of, MJ Melendez tinkering with his swing in spring training, and there's all these positive reviews about his, him sticking with his swing. And I kept saying, wait till he goes over 20. That's when we're going to know whether or not this thing can stick around. He opens the season in a huge slump. It doesn't stick around. He gets all out of sorts. That's when it's going to be a real test for Andy Reid, when this doesn't work. Right now, it's working for him. He's 11 out of 13. This is not a foolproof thing. 4 percentage points. I mean, in poker, kings beat aces. You still want to play the aces all the time. So, once this doesn't work, let's see whether or not it affects him and he dials it back.
I will say, though, that they will be somewhat of an outlier, because a lot of times it's teams doing this that think they don't have the firepower just to score. And as I've always said, when somebody who has the firepower to score then also implements going for it on fourth down, you're going to see some ass kickings, right?
But Detroit kicked a lot of people's asses last year.
Yes, and that was part of it. And I think it was an underrated part. No one ever talked about, it was just the one time I remember him talking about the fourth downs that Dan Campbell goes for was the Packer game, which he smartly went for it all the time because he had no defensive players. And they missed one late that the Packers had a chance to take advantage of. They didn't even take advantage of it. They didn't score. The Lions still won. And I watched 25 minutes of people talking about how he was,
well, the NFC Championship, Soren, remember that against the 49ers when he missed a couple, and that's all they talked about. It's like, that's why they're here.
Yeah, this is what he's done. It's not, you're not Kreskin. Like you made the gambling one. 16 against a 10. You hit it. That's the math. You're probably going to bust, but you hit it. It's your only shot. You have to do it. You don't get a peek under and see what it is, and then after the fact say, this is the smart one, or I had a feeling, I had a little tingle in my knee. I knew I should have stayed. It's none of that crap. You just follow it. But, I look, one of the things we talked about on Friday's podcast, like special teams, could have been a part of it because Butker continued to have his issues, but they'd been awful in the special teams the week before against Jacksonville, and aggressive on fourth down. So that is, to me, knowing your opponent. Like if us three dolts can sit here and boil that down and be ready for it, then clearly the Chiefs were ready for it as well, and it worked, for them. I did want to say this. You mentioned some of the things Andy Reid said. One of the things he said, I think it was after the game and post game. I don't think it was on Monday. It might have been you asking him, Sam, post game, and he said something to the effect of, "Well, the analytics will tell you to go for everyone."
Oh yeah, that was a post game question. He
yes.
said, the stat guys will tell you to go for all of them.
Yeah, the stat guys will tell you to go for all of them. So I'm with you when you bring up. I think it's an important fact to say, will he keep doing it? Because even armed with success, he's like, all right, well, settle down.
He didn't want any credit for it. Like, I have asked him about fourth down decisions so many times to where it's like, okay, this isn't going to go well. He's not going to like this. But it's like, finally, here's an opportunity to ask about fourth downs that work out. You made the right decision. And he still didn't like it. He still didn't like answering questions. And, if you listen to it, it's back to back to back. I'm trying to pull something out of it. Like, I'm not saying that you've got to go with the analytics, but he's been so far to the other end of the spectrum. Like, just move halfway in between. Just say the ones that give you an extra 2 percentage points. You'll go for those, because there's some truth to what he said. Like the analytics make it to where you're going for some pretty risky situations there. But I think he's looked so much at the opponent for this. Like, hey, the Lions are aggressive, so we got to be aggressive. Hey, the Eagles are aggressive, so we got to be aggressive. Hey, the Ravens are aggressive, so I got to be aggressive. But I think it should be much more on what Jeff just said, which is what's the game situation dictate, which in that game, it's your offense is on fire and the Lions defense is missing some dudes.
Yeah.
Those are the two things. Like, look at yourself in this situation. Don't worry about whether or not, if you think them going for it is a good thing, then you should be going for it no matter who you're playing against.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I also point out when the things he says, I asked him about, hey, did the Lions, choosing to take the ball kind of fire your guys up? Because I would assume every coach knows you defer. I mean, you want to defer. It's your only way to get back-to-back possessions. He's like, no, it didn't. I said, well, I said, that didn't surprise you. I think I used surprise in the question somewhere. And he said, no, I mean, we'd said it. I mean, he'd done that 3 times this year. No, he hadn't. Like that is absolutely not the case. That's what we looked it up. The Lions that was only the second time the Lions have won the coin toss. The first time they won it, they deferred. So that was utter crap.
Wonder if he means like ever as opposed to this year.
I think he said this year. I'd have to go back and listen. It was on.
I trust that you recall.
I'm not sure.
I'm just saying. I wonder if that's what he meant or what he was told. Maybe he's not exactly remembering what he was told too.
Yeah, might have been. I don't know. I don't think that's what I would find that hard to believe as well. That's how Dan Campbell did it as well. But I don't know. I'll dig deeper into it. All right, we still want to get into the defense playing very well, holding the Lions to 17 points. We'll talk about that next, right after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews. Every project comes with a written warning. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, did we see the best of this defense? Is that the ceiling for what this defense can do, Jeff, against the Lions?
I imagine it's probably pretty close to it. I mean, I think the elements you saw Chris Jones more engaged. I thought they matched the physicality really well. After that first drive, Detroit was when you're holding them under 100 yards rushing. We talked about that last week as being a huge factor in this game. I think that was important. I think Leo Chanel has quietly had a tremendous season. I think that he's played at a really high level and done some things that I didn't think he could do. And so I think Brian Cook's played well. My issue with his defense has always been that it's just not super talented. But when they're locked in and they're playing and Spagnuolo has it dialed up and they're very gap sound and they're very responsible in their roles. And that's what you saw. I mean, Detroit had their moments, but there weren't a lot of splash plays, but I felt as if they controlled a really good offensive team, and you have to give them credit for that.
Yeah, held the Lions to under 100 yards rushing. That was big in this, Sam. Still only 1 sack, though. Not getting consistent pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the pass rush was non-existent again, and basically until the Chiefs knew that they were going to pass. Like, I still think this is a team that's having a difficult time when the opposition is in a pass or run situation. And, the Lions play action was still effective in this game. I thought the defense was good, not great in the game. I guess I did not think it was their ceiling, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think they are good, not great. That's my point.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm saying
yeah,
I don't think I don't think that was their ceiling. But if I'm the Lions, and I don't want to get into a whole Ravens AFC Championship thing here, but if I'm the Lions, I'm asking myself why I only gave David Montgomery the ball 4 times in that game against a run defense that has struggled a lot. And I don't know whether they thought it was like a point of.
Well, let me ask you this, Sam. Answer your own question. Why do you think that?
I was going to say, I wonder if it's like a point of like macho that they thought that, hey, let's give Jahmyr Gibbs the ball 10 times in one drive and score, and that maybe they feel something out of that, because like David Montgomery for me is my goal line back in that situation. Like, at ball at the 1 yard line, like, I'm not throwing the ball with David Montgomery. I'm running the ball with him in that spot.
On that, I would wonder a little bit, is it like, okay, against his blitz, Gibbs is a better blocker? I don't know. I haven't studied either one of them. And so, or against the blitz, if they come, we want to release to the back. So
I think that's what it was
out there.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Chiefs personnel or the expectation of what Spagnuolo was going to do made him the running back that they thought they needed. But I mean, I also think it's, like the 220 whatever against the Ravens, they were winning when they started piling that up. Like, I think people forget it's different to run when you're winning than it is to run to win. Right. Like, and I think they came out and ran to win, and I think they were in control of the game. And I think you make a good point, Sam. I think they needed to get more runs in there. Oh, we say it all the time. I mean, 5 yards a carry is not 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. It's 7, 1. You get a 1 and a 2 back to back in your 3rd and 7, and you got to throw, and the Chiefs have a chance to do something. You get a penalty that sets you back, and you're looking at 2nd and 15. You feel like you got to throw. I mean, I think it gets easier. We talked about it. It gets easier for the Lions because Dan Campbell, 3rd and 7, he'll take 4 yards and go for 4th and 3. So he can call the run. And sometimes those runs will get him 10 or 12 because he's up against a backpedaling pass defense. And so, sometimes, though, if you can't get out of your own way, or it's just the Chiefs are making the plays on the downs that don't allow you to go for those fourths and to get deeper into that playbook and to set up whatever it is. I don't know. I mean, I give credit to the Chiefs. I'm kind of in between the two of you. I'm with Sam. I think there's more ceiling there. From that standpoint, I think they can play better, but how they're going to play better, not a whole lot better, because I actually think they did better than you did, Sam, but I think there is more there. But it was just kind of weird because I don't think they can get after the quarterback without pressure.
Yeah. I think what the one thing that's missing is what you said earlier, Soren, which is
I thought that after the quarterback without blitzing. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I think what helped the Chiefs the most was Dan Campbell allowing them to double dip. Like, if that doesn't, like, that's what took the Lions out of their game plan. I thought the Chiefs' offense is what took the Lions out of their offensive game plan. I know that seems backwards, but the Lions suddenly got down 2 scores without really, like, they had the ball once there right before the half, but they're in a 2-minute offense, which is, they're not as good as they are in regular offense, where they can use play action as effectively as literally any team in the NFL. They run the ball really effectively. Like, when you subtract that, they're not quite as good in that 2-minute offense. So suddenly they're in a spot where they get the ball and they're down double digits. Like, to me, that's what took them out of their game plan more so than the Chiefs, like, being really effective defensively.
Totally. And I couldn't tell if, when I brought that up to Andy Reid, like, were you surprised that they allowed this? And he kind of jousted with me, like, well, you mean, are you talking about when they got the ball back? Because, we finished with a kneel down. We didn't score. He wanted to, I'm like, listen, the last full real possession, the Kansas City Chiefs finished with a touchdown. 37 seconds, I think, was when they kicked off to the Lions, right? And then the Lions had to go for chunk plays to try to get something. They didn't get it, and they punted, to which
37's right, yeah.
It was 37, yeah. And then they punted, and I had people going, why are you even fielding this punt? Like, get away, don't screw it up. I'm like, it's not Sky Moore, settle down. And so then they ended up kneeling down to get out of the half. But the last real possession, the Chiefs had the ball and they got a touchdown. And then they started with it and they got a touchdown. And I'm with you. A 4-point lead became a 10-point deficit, and that changes what you do if you're the Lions. I mean,
at the point that I was making about the Amon-RaSt.Brown play being really big was that if they're able to convert that drive into a touchdown, then it's a 17-6 game, right? With the Lions ahead. And so that's why it felt as if the Lions were a little more desperate than they usually are And I don't know if that so much was the Chiefs offense. I think that they really panicked in some situations where, and you saw I don't know if you saw Dan Campbell's halftime interview where he was like really fired up. We're like one play away. Couple more things happen. We're right there. We get this. And I'm like, I don't usually see him that jacked in a halftime interview. I don't watch a ton of Lions games, but it felt as if he was just like really upset about some missed opportunities there. Maybe that first call got him. But when you're going to trick plays on your first drive to score touchdowns, that means you're coming into this with a different mindset than you normally have. And but go back to the defensive part of it. The point I was making was I do think they're a good defense, but they'll have a hard time being great because of the things we're talking about. Like they just don't have the kind of players who can take over games. Like I'm watching it's the Jets, obviously, and the Broncos, but the Broncos have 9 sacks. It's like they're not going to have those kind of games against even inferior competition because they're not built that way.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking, based on that, like what's the best avenue to the Chiefs defense getting better? And, like if you asked that about the offense, like I think even though we said the Chiefs had to get better offensively before the receivers got back, before Rashee Rice got back, their offensive line had to improve, which it has. The running game had to improve, which it has. With defense, I don't know what you point to exactly and say, well, here's how it's going to get better. Like the best answer is that the rookies are going to have to become better contributors, more consistent contributors, more frequent contributors than what they have because Rashee Rice isn't coming back for the defense.
Yeah, I agree. I think they are what they are on defense, and I think they're capable of playing a little bit better than what they did.
Yeah,
This game, they're going to be challenged up front. I mean, and they're listen. I will give Derek Nottie credit. In the second half, he was more stout, but in the first half, it was some of the worst. I tweeted out like the only way they don't have someone better is because they literally have not even looked. Because at this point, somebody said, "Well, if not him, then who?" I would scream anybody. And in the second half, I don't know. He looked like a guy who was 150 pounds trying to play linebacker. Like he was looking for where the running back is as he's being driven backwards, except he's 330 pounds. And it's mind-boggling.
He's 330.
He's not as big as he was when he first came up.
He should be then because he's getting driven off the ball. Start eating, Tubbs, because it's not working where you're at right now. But he was more stout in the second half. I will give him credit. I don't know if it's they quit double. They weren't double teaming him. We had one guy just driving him off the ball. I don't know. And the Lions' offensive line, Penny Sewell is very, very good. And as a unit, they're a good unit. There's no doubt. But the grading on the guys, this isn't. They're not all one, two, three at their positions individually. So you should not be getting balled like that. Mahomes spreading the ball around. Sam, Hollywood and Kelsey had the big day. It wasn't Tyquan Thornton, wasn't Xavier Worthy. He obviously is delivering the ball to the open man, and he again has a nice passing day, but it's different guys stepping up. How important is that moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's really important. It turns out that these guys are better when they're part of it and not the answer. Like they're an answer on an individual play rather than just consistently looking at the same guy. It's becoming harder for, I think, defenses to game plan against them because they're not exactly sure what to take away. I think this week that'll change. And we'll get into a lot more of that on Friday with Rashee Rice's return. But I think that you've got guys who look comfortable in roles. It's not unlike when a baseball team acquires a closer, suddenly the guy who was pitching the 8th looks a lot better pitching in the 7th. I just think guys are being asked to do less. There's not the same pressure there was on these guys a year ago when they were thin at that position, or 2 years ago when they were thin at that position. And suddenly guys, make plays. Hollywood Brown, I think, has had the best stretch of a couple games that he's had for the Chiefs. The game against the Jaguars, I thought he was the best we had seen him, and then responds with another good week. He's not a number 1 wide receiver, but he looks pretty good when he's your number 3 wide receiver.
Yeah, for sure. Jeff, what did you see out of the wideouts?
I thought it was a game where you saw, I don't say the growth. I think you saw the realization that, that teams are probably going to try to take away the deep ball now. They've seen it enough. They've seen Tyquan Thornton running down the field and Xavier Worthy. We're going to make Travis Kelce beat us. We're going to make Hollywood Brown beat us. We're going to make JuJu beat us. and we don't think you run the football that effectively. That seemed to be what the Lions' game plan was, and you saw a lot of times Mahomes dropping back, looking for those deep shots and having, okay, it's not there. I got to go to somebody else. And they adjusted to that. And so I think that it is a positive sign for all these guys. I've been a Hollywood Brown hater for a long since he's been here. And I do think he's a number 4 receiver, to be honest with you. He and JuJu are 4 and 5. And so when you have to throw them the ball 3 or 4 times, that's a positive instead of expecting them to do bigger things. Travis Kelce was the revelation to me in this game because he really had to do a lot more than what he's been asked more recently. And he stepped up and delivered. And so that's probably one of the better games he's going to have this year in the role he's in. And if you're asking him to give you 6 for 78 or whatever it was, I think that's a pretty good space for him to be in when you have to have it from him because he's not going to give it to you week in and week out.
Well, Andy Reid told Soren why Kelce's bounced back. Yeah.
Geritol.
What was that?
Geritol, he said.
Geritol?
Yeah, I said, hey, does he look like he looks, more spry and, he's more mobile. He's making moves. And it's like, yeah. He gave him Geritol. Yeah. He wanted no part of he's working out or, he clearly put more into it. And I've said it, look, I mean, you found a gal you like and she's traveling all over the world. Life's more important than football. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, you should have been home in the gym and go live your life, man. But then when you're like, hey, I want to do better than this, then you better dedicate yourself. And he did, and it shows, right? I think it's obvious now that effort was made this offseason. It wasn't made last offseason. I even gave Andy the idea of, was he hurt last year? I know you don't talk about injuries in season, but was there some injury that was bogging him down or nagging him? And, we gave him Geritol. Okay.
The thing that
Geritol?
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't think so, and I don't even remember what the hell it was.
Yeah.
The thing with Kelce, because Jeff brings up a really good point about that I kept pointing out last year what was gone from his game was the after the catch part. Mm-hmm. The fact that he couldn't make people miss, that his catches were just exactly where he caught them. He was at 3.5 yards after the catch last year. This year he's at 6.2. And what's telling is last year he forced 3 missed tackles on PFF's data, which is, broken tackle or you juke someone in the open field. 3 missed tackles in the regular season last year, 6 in the last 3 games this year. That is a guy who's in better shape.
Yeah, Tina said it. His yak is back. Yards after catch. I like it. Well said. Well put. It needs to be because I think they do need him. I think it's going to be interesting. You get Rashee Rice back. We'll credit our buddy Eric Eager, who I thought had a great study. I think it was back in 2019 about how important when you get to the playoffs, the third receiving option is, because you get down, if you get to the playoffs, everyone usually has a couple of pretty good corners, a couple of pretty good cover guys. You get down to that third one. The Chiefs look like that would be pretty dangerous. Whoever your weak spot is, if you're worse, you got a bad corner and you got to go cover Hollywood Brown, that's a problem. You got to cover Taquan Thornton. That's a problem. So I think it's a significant development. Rashee Rice is going to be huge, but to Sam's point about the closer now becomes the setup guy. Yeah, I think that's a big part of the equation.
I'm pretty sure Jeff is smirking because we just heard you assume that Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown are going to be healthy.
That is comedic.
That's a lot to add. Long way to go here.
Long way to go. A lot of
week
football.
6.
Yeah, no doubt. Listen, if you've been hurt in an accident, Kansas City's #1 rated injury lawyers is Northland Injury Law. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222. Or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. And I'll remind you, our buddy Nathan over at Gann said, let people know we're booking up on the seal coating. I know that's a big one. Everyone wants to get it done before it gets cold. Once it gets too cold, they can't do it. If you run a business, own a business, you need the parking lot sealed, get it done now. GannAsphalt.com. Let's talk a little bit about Jaylon Moore. Time to just go ahead and sit down, Juwan Taylor, Jeff. Is that where we're at? Like, have we seen enough out of Jaylon Moore already? It can't do it till he's not playing left tackle, which as of right now, maybe we'll get an indication with the media session tomorrow. But as of right now, we have no indication on when he might be back. So that's going to be number one. But whenever Josh Simmons is back, talking about new right tackle?
Well, I think he should be the right tackle based on what we saw in that game. I mean, he's shown enough in the heat of the fire to where you should feel like, hey, this guy's a pretty good option. And we don't have to have holding penalties all the time on the right side or false start. We can live in a world where that's not the case. And you probably should be living in the world where that's not the case because your margin for error, even with Rashee Rice coming back, is still not huge. But yeah, I was impressed with him. I did not expect to see him out there being pressed into duty, having to deal with Aiden Hutchinson at times. He looked good. And so I don't know how, if you're the Chiefs and you're watching film and you're saying, well, let's go back to putting him on the bench, even though we're paying him a bunch of money. And, I think it's time to have that serious conversation within Arrowhead One about what are we doing here? And is this guy a better option? Should we have a shorter lease with Juwan Taylor moving forward? Should be part of their mindset.
Where do you sit? Time to make a change, Sam?
Yeah, well, I mean, the headline here is that it's unclear when Josh Simmons is going to be back. And like I mentioned on your show today, Soren, I mean, as of yesterday, and I was chatting with some people, it was unclear to them when Josh Simmons is going to be back. So this could be something that is a while to where like this question is irrelevant to the Chiefs. But what confused me after watching Jaylon Moore was how he wasn't able to get into the game in New York, because Juwan Taylor was getting his ass kicked in that game, and it was penalty as well. And he disrupted third down calls. He took down a third down conversion, took back a third down conversion. I don't know how he didn't appear in any of those first three games. Now, the ironic part of this timing is Juwan Taylor's had his best three games over these last three games. I mean, when you go through it, like Aiden Hutchinson, for example, he lined up on the right side of the defense, so against the left tackle, Jaylon Moore, 33 times. He lined up on the opposite side 27 times. He basically split his time. All three of his pressures came against Moore, not against Juwan Taylor in that game. So, which was like funny to me because PFF has more graded much better, even on pass blocking than it did Juwan Taylor in that game. But I didn't think like we noticed Juwan Taylor that much, and it's hard in a primetime Sunday night game for us not to notice Juwan Taylor. So that the timing of it is weird for the Chiefs.
I'm looking at the game grades and for pass blocking, and maybe they've changed it. Right now, Jaylon Moore 45. 52 for Juwan Taylor. Jaylon Moore overall a 67 because he gave an 81 on the run blocking. But then again,
what was Taylor?
Juwan Taylor overall was a 57 with a 57 run block and a 52 pass block. So
they both had really hard assignments. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson is we said it on Friday. He is as good as it gets at that position, and Aiden Hutchinson got so frustrated in that game that he decided the only hit he could take was one that was 2.5 steps too late.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think you had a guy that was frustrated, but I think we saw enough to believe that you've got a starting tackle there, and however you do it. The good news is when Josh Simmons comes back, you have three high caliber tackles. Juwan Taylor sucks when he's getting penalties. I agree, but I think when he's not getting penalties, I think he's a pretty good pass blocker. Not much in the run game, but a pretty good pass blocker. All right, let's talk about the post-game scuffle. We'll get into some of the odds changes. What do you make of the JuJu v. Brian Branch, or Brian Branch versus JuJu, Jeff? Anything to see here?
Well, I think Dan Campbell said it best. I mean, Branch was in the wrong, shouldn't have done it. Still don't know what led to it, but I'm going to assume, I'm going to go on a limb and assume JuJu probably was saying something that got under his skin, because JuJu tends to do that. And But yeah, you have a whole game to get it figured out. You have a whole game to deal with it. I think Branch talked about getting blocked in the back or something like that.
He did. So there's a couple clips. You're right that what Dan Campbell said is right. It was inexcusable, I think was the word he used for Branch. And so I'm not at all excusing what he did because it's a cheap shot. Yeah. But I can't understand why he was pissed off late in that game. Because if you notice, like when there's two plays that I think stood out to me.
You can or can't?
I can understand why he's pissed. There were two plays when I went back and watched the game that stood out to me. One is the Patrick Mahomes run where it's an offside call, which the refs never signaled touchdown. Us in the press box had no idea whether they were going to let that play count or not, where Mahomes ran the option. If you notice, he takes the ball and he flicks it and then points. He's flicking it towards Branch and he's pointing at Branch in that play.
Yeah.
And then with about 3.5 minutes to go, JuJu Smith-Schuster blindside blocks him at the line of scrimmage. And I think it's a little bit more on the side, maybe in the back, but it hits him kind of in, the back of the shoulder maybe. And you can tell he's pissed. Like, hey man, that wasn't necessary for this play. So not at all excusing what he did. I think that's why he's pissed.
Yeah. Listen, I think if you're going to go talk smack, strap your helmet on and be ready to get punched.
Yeah.
Like I will say that about the Smith-Schuster. Like, there are some guys, man, like we don't chat. There's no hold me back, bro. It's like I'm swinging. And you need to be ready for you need to either shut your mouth or be ready for those kind of guys in this world. But yeah, I mean, I think everything was said. Campbell does. You can't do it. You settle it on the field. I think it's because he's got a bloody nose, it draws attention to it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure Branch was playing hurt. Other guys were playing hurt. I mean, that gets under your skin a little bit too. Again, not condoning it. But look, I've seen this happen numerous times in this league. So
I do think if Mahomes is flipping the ball at him, Branch probably had something to say before that too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It struck me that the Lions were pretty fiery after this game. Like it wasn't just this Branch incident. There were comments in the locker room. I think it was Joseph had commented when asked about what it's like to defend Patrick Mahomes, and he said shit ain't hard. Yeah. And I thought that the Lions were pretty angry after this loss. Right. And we're not around the Lions every week, and so I don't know exactly what to make of that. Whether that's typical that they don't handle losing. They did not seem to handle this very well, losing this game.
They're a pretty hostile team in nature. Hey, Kirby Joseph is somebody who's very hot. I remember talking to Kirby Joseph in training camp a couple years ago and talking to him about defense, and he was talking about like hurting people. Then like we have to get some fines together, get a pool together to pay some fines, and we're going to be very hostile out there, taking people out. It's like July he was talking about getting fined. So he and Branch, I think, are kind of built the same way. They if you go to a Lions practice, which is probably why they get a lot of guys hurt, they're a very physical team in practice and training camp. So that
could be part. I will say that mindset will not serve you well on the field. I mean, I don't think the whole whip them into a froth thing is good. I think you need people who are focused and intelligent and focused on doing their job and not getting over on one guy on the other team. The goal is to win, and I think that's at some point they're going to start getting. I mean, it's going to be this year. Let's be honest. If they don't push on into the Super Bowl, they're going to start hearing the same crap that the Ravens hear. Yeah.
Well, it cost them that Hutchinson penalty was huge. That was one of those moments where you're frustrated and you're on edge and you take it too far.
Yeah. Patrick Mahomes is the MVP front runner right now. Sam, should he be?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think you should pick anybody over the field, but I'm trying to figure out who else I would pick over him. I mean, there's guys, I hate the way this phrase is overused, but if the season ended today, would you vote for him? No. But, he's trending in the right directions. I mentioned earlier, like he's on these 3-game spans that we haven't seen from him in 2 or 3 years. And now he gets his best player back, his best weapon back. So, yeah, I mean, if I was only allowed to pick one name out of the hat, that's the name I'd want to pick.
Yeah. How about you, Jeff? Do you think he should be
I think Baker Mayfield is the runaway favorite right now. I think
he's
Mahomes
the
has a bigger
leader.
name.
That's what I was referring to when I said if the season ended today.
Yeah,
Baker
he's the
Mayfield
leader.
is the guy if the season ended today.
And so, I mean, I think this is the guy who threw for 40 touchdown passes last year. And he doesn't have Mike Evans, doesn't have Chris Godwin, lost to Mecca Buka. This team is probably the best team in football right now at 5-1. They've had a number of high-profile games. Bucky Irvin's not there. This is a narrative award. We say it all the time. It's like Mahomes, could win it every year, but the narrative right now is that Baker Mayfield is single-handedly carrying this team to the best record in the NFL right now, and he's doing it, putting up stats. I think he's 12-1. He's got one turnover, and so I think Mahomes is in the conversation now. But if you watch the Bucs play,
come on, he's more than in the conversation.
He's not number one.
This is the odds are the odds are. I think there's a discrepancy here because I agree with you that Baker is the MVP of the first 6 weeks, but the odds are a projection award, right? And so
the odds are projecting who will get the award.
Yeah. So if you want to do that, then that's fine. But if you're asking me, I think you cannot say Baker Mayfield has been the best player in football through the first 6 weeks of the season. And so a lot can change both ways, but I think Baker Mayfield will keep putting up numbers because he's put up numbers.
I'm trying to quickly find where our quarterback rankings were because
last year, by the way, this was Sam Darnold's award through 6 weeks at this time a year ago.
Yeah.
Yes, and for a while it was Jared Goff's award. I don't know why I'm struggling.
But you have to remember that Mahomes has to do more to win it, and so while he's played well, like he's going to have to.
I totally agree with that. I think that's
his team is 3-3, by the way.
But yes, I think in this case, it would help Patrick Mahomes that they lost 3 games early because if they go on a run, he's going to get a lot of credit for turning it around.
I agree with that.
Tell me, I think the other thing is to your point about the projections is that do you think Baker Mayfield is? I mean, didn't he lead the league in interceptions? And again, I'm the guy who had him highest on our ranking, so I'm far be it for me to just blow the guy up. But
I did have the Bucs in the Super Bowl, I think. Which, to be honest, like the Bucs, I say that in thinking. The way that Soren bragged about the Jaguars a week ago, thinking, "Hey, this might be my only shot." This might be my only shot to mention that because
I took it. I was wise.
I thought the Bucs were Super Bowl good. They are not as good as their 5-1 record has been. They've been outplayed in 3 or 4 games.
But they're also injured. Like they have serious injuries.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. And so, put it this way: if you think who has an easier division to navigate moving forward. Like who is more likely to be able to put up more? Who's getting more weapons back, right? Like Mahomes getting 1 guy back. This guy potentially could have 5 guys returning, and he threw 40 touchdown passes last year. And he's already being talked about as the MVP. And so if that team goes 12-5 and they win their division, and Mahomes they don't win theirs, like it's going to be Baker Mayfield.
Just for the record on where we all stood on Baker Mayfield, I finally found it. I had Baker Mayfield number 12 and was ridiculed. Jeff had him at 16 and Sam had him at 17.
Not to bring up one of your
hang
low
on.
moments, but the reason you had him, you got ridiculed is it was the whole contract discrepancy where somehow you had CJ Stroud ranked ahead of him, but Baker's was a better contract.
Yeah. That is. You're right. You're right. Jeff and I had him in tier 3 and Sam had him in tier 4, but we all had him in the same neighborhood. So yeah, I definitely agree. I think Baker Mayfield will win the award today, but I think the likelihood is that Patrick Mahomes will play better the rest of the way, and so that's why he's the favorite. But I'm with Sam. I wouldn't take the field because I think Jared Goff will be factoring into that equation. I think he's got a chance to get something. I think there'll be some people chirping Drake May, along the Northeast if he keeps playing at a high level and the Patriots surprise everybody and win like 11, 12 games or something like that. So, but I think when Lamar Jackson's hurt and seemingly out of the race, Jalen Hurts is not putting up numbers to begin with, and now they're losing. Josh Allen especially 2 big fat losses that he shouldn't have right now and hasn't beaten anybody. I think dumbing all that down around him is what's also helping. To your point, Jeff, he's going to have to play better. Well, the people around him are going to have to play worse.
Yeah.
And right now, the around him is playing worse as part of it. That's the equation. All right, Jeff, the Chiefs, favorite for the Super Bowl?
I wouldn't go that far.
Or are you giving it to the Bucs?
Yeah. To win a Super Bowl? To win it?
Just the favorite. We're not saying you're picking this team.
Yeah, we're not saying you're picking the team. Like who do you think should be the favorite right now?
Oh, I still go with the Lions and Bills in my Super Bowl pick. I do a pick every week for my column, so I go with the Bills and the Lions. And it's not that I don't think the Chiefs should be certainly a favorite for a lot of people just because of their pedigree, but they're 3-3, and they're not winning their division right now. And I look at the full body of work. Now, Rashee Rice coming back helps, but we'll see how it looks when he's back. I think that I think that there is not one dominant team in the league right now, and it's been a couple of decades since you could say that. And I think there are about 20 teams. You look at every division, there's about 20 teams that are probably B+ to B-, depending on when you see them. A week ago, we were talking about the Chiefs losing to Jacksonville. Now we're talking about the Bills and the Eagles taking some tough losses, the Chargers coming back to earth, the Broncos playing better. I just think, like, if we do that every week, we're going to drive ourselves crazy. I think the reality is that the Chiefs are amongst a group of teams that can all beat each other on any given day and can all lose to each other on any given day. And it just depends on what those days are.
Did I just hear that right? You said that every week in your column, you pick the Super Bowl teams, and then 30 seconds later, you say, if we do this every week, we're going to drive ourselves crazy?
Hey, trust me, it drives me crazy. I don't want to do it. I have to do it. I got to do an MVP vote too. It drives me crazy. I spend more time thinking about these last 2 questions than anybody on this podcast right now, and it's very hard to do it every week because every week you're like, well, okay, this guy. You know, Mahomes wasn't in my top 5 this week, but they win next week. They'll probably be in the top 5. But it's just, it's like you can't. The Chiefs are always going to be in the conversation just because of the Chiefs. And Mahomes is going to be MVP because he's Mahomes. But if you look around the league, like, people are always looking for like definitive information about what a team is, and I just don't think that exists this year for a lot of teams. I think that there are some good teams and there's probably 5 teams that suck, and everybody else is in the mix.
To give Jeff credit, the 3 of us on a text thread, it was after 3 weeks into the season that Jeff was saying that there were no A teams this year. And to me, that's the reason why I think the Chiefs should be the Super Bowl favorites. Because the first time, before a midway point of the season with a healthy Patrick Mahomes, with Andy Reid still coaching, the first time that I say that the Chiefs are not Super Bowl favorites, something better have gone very awry, or there better be a really, really good team that I say, no, it's this team. There's no team that I can point to right now that I say the Chiefs should be nervous about playing this team. They just beat the Lions, who I don't disagree with Jeff. Like, I'd still if I only could pick one NFC team, that's probably the team I'm picking right now is a healthy Lions team. And so they just beat that team, convincing fashion. I mean, Dan Campbell said they got their butts whipped in the game. And I don't think that the Bills are that great. I think I've been saying since week 1 when the Chargers beat the Chiefs, I don't think the Chargers team is as good as people are going to say based on them beating the Chiefs. And I'm not convinced with Denver yet. I know the record's 4-2. They look terrible offensively against the Jets. They look terrible offensively against the Eagles until the 4th quarter. Bo Nix has not played good quarterback for 6 weeks of the season. I still think the Chiefs will win the division, get a home game or 2. So I think that's what's baked into the odds, is the fact that it's not going to be a team that's going to be playing on the road the entire postseason.
I will submit the Eagles that, I know the last 2 games, I'm fine if the Chiefs pass them in the odds, and because the Chiefs are playing well now and the Eagles aren't. And just as we said, hey, look, the Chiefs aren't playing well at 0-2, but they're going to be playing better. I think the Eagles are going to play better. I do. Also, I got lit up about my Nick Sirianni rankings because I think he's a ticking time bomb, and I think that's a problem. And they could go off at any time, but I do think the Eagles will factor in there. I don't have any problem with the Lions being the top team, but I think the Packers and the Eagles are teams that have to be watched as teams that could be good enough to ultimately be the favorite. You know, to get on a roll the way the Eagles did last year. And Chiefs were the favorite going in, but really the Eagles were clearly the better. As it played out, we look back and go, we really should have been more on the Eagles. They won all those games in a row, and it wasn't their first rodeo in the postseason. So,
well, and Soren, think about what they were being talked about at this time last year. Like nobody was saying this is going to championship team. Like they were like, what is this? And then they won like whatever 17 in a row or whatever it was.
Well, and I think probably the Eagles run last year is part of what's shining more light. Also the reputation of the Chiefs, but it's like, well, wait a minute. You know, they were 2-2 last year and they were ready to go. And I think people are kind of looking for who's this year's Eagles. Well, it kind of looks like the Chiefs. They were a little ugly early, but now they look like they're playing really good football. And you can look at the schedule and go, okay, Raiders like that, Buffalo scuffling. You know, you can. It starts to. I did the schedules. We did the schedules today, and the Bills. You know, we talked a lot about the schedules. If you wanted to pick the Chiefs, it's because the Bills' schedule still appears easier here moving forward, even dropping the PUDs that they've had already. But the one thing is the quantity of teams. Like the Jets 0-6 really weighs on that schedule, right? But if you take the number of sub 500 teams, the number of 500 teams, and the number of above 500 teams, the Chiefs and Bills have the same number of above 500 teams. The Chiefs have the Bills have 2 500 teams and 3. I'd have to flip it around. Anyway, it ends up being they have the same number of 500 or worse teams left on the schedule.
I think that Bills schedule looks pretty easy when I look at it. Carolina, the Chiefs, I mean, they both have that game. Miami, Tampa at home, at Houston, at Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, New England, Cleveland, Philadelphia, and the Jets. I just think, relatively speaking, the Bills have the easiest schedule.
I agree, but I don't think it's – I think now that we're here, I think from this point forward, it's closer than it looked to start. And I think what the Bills have left looks more difficult than we would have thought to begin the year. I just think some of their teams have more of their teams on their schedule played up.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons the Bills' schedule was so easy is because week 2, 3, and 4 were a piece of cake. I mean, it was the Jets, Dolphins, and Saints in back-to-back weeks. And to your point, like they're through that. And that's why I think people should question the Bills even more than these last 2 losses is that Saints game was a grind for them at home. That Dolphins game was a grind for them at home.
Well, and they were supposed to beat the Falcons. Let's not kid ourselves. That's the game they were supposed to lose.
That's also the point that I'm making, which is like, I think that not every loss is an indictment of you. And if it is, then we should be saying, well, the Jags beat the Chiefs, right? So it's like we can't just like dismiss what happened a week ago and like, oh, now they're great. It's like every team's going to have these kind of games.
It's why I have no problem with the Eagles or Bills being more favored than the Chiefs right now or in 2 weeks or whenever. I mean, I think the Bills' schedule is easier. Sam's right, and I think that's if they clear this hurdle and they start playing better ball, then going back and saying, okay, the Bills are still the favorite because they're most likely to be playing at home against the Chiefs whenever they play them, I think is a fair assessment. You know, listen, to win for anyone who gets, you know, all bent out of shape because you don't say the Chiefs are the favorite, they don't have to be the favorite to win it. They just have to score more points. It doesn't matter what the talking heads say, and it doesn't matter what the point spread is. Just go out and win the game. And I think we'll all agree, isn't anybody going to be laying 11 against the Chiefs in a playoff game?
Yeah.
Right? You may be the favorite, but you're not going to be given much when the Chiefs come calling in the postseason. So they'll be fine. Nobody has to be big brothers.
I mean, the Chiefs are not going to be field goal underdogs for the rest of the year. I think they'll be underdogs in Buffalo, but it's going to be like a 2-point line. That's the only game left on their schedule that they're going to be underdogs.
Well, and nobody was sitting here when they were really struggling saying this isn't a playoff team. Like, I think find me the person who was thinking they weren't going to be in the postseason, and that person does not exist.
And we kept quoting all the numbers. It was like 80%, 70%. Like, you know, it was still heavy that they were going to be in the playoffs. That's a good point, Jeff. Listen, you can always support the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast by supporting our great sponsors, Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Remember, they're booking up fast for that seal coating. Once it gets cold, they can't do that till the spring. You can still book right now by going to GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338 since 1994, solving all parking lot problems. One contractor, all things parking lot, Gann Asphalt and Concrete. In Kansas City's best when it comes to accidents. Voted KC's #1 accident lawyers. That's Northland Injury Law. 5-star rated on Google. They are the best, whether you've been hurt in an auto accident, hurt at work, falls, whatever it might be. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their clients. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22 222 or call 816-400-HURT. For Jeff Chadiha from the NFL Network, Sam McDowell from the Kansas City Star, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Red Gold and Bold podcast.